Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Thursday night live stream for Week 7 of the 2024 fantasy football season. Yes, we all just watched the last 3 hours of one of the most, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know if there's an actual word that I can rip off here that could describe this game besides underwhelming. Boring. I fell asleep midway through that third quarter. I'd like everyone, I want to put that on the record. I fell asleep during that third quarter. If my eyes look bloodshot, it's because I was asleep until I realized, oh man, I got to get up to live stream. That game was just, unless you had Javonte Williams or the Denver Broncos defense rolling, there was just nothing. Right? So we just watched it because we love football. That's really all that we watched it for. Now, in my case, I gave myself a little bit more of an incentive as to why I wanted to watch that game. And I want to address that first and foremost. Earlier today, in regards to the tight end and quarterback rankings video that was posted on the channel, it's live today. So if you guys haven't checked it out, have any questions regarding tight ends or quarterbacks going into week 7, I did in fact have a pick'em slip that I put together. And boy, did it absolutely go to shit. Okay, so hear me out. Listen to this. So Juwan Johnson does his job as expected because tight ends play well against the Denver Broncos. But Devon Vele just needed, after the first quarter, got himself a reception for 20 yards. All this man needed was a quite literal 12 yards. Okay, great, 12 yards. Shouldn't be that difficult. 2 targets in the second quarter, both incomplete. Then you get into the third quarter. And then all of a sudden, I look at my phone after waking up from my, from my nap of the third quarter, and I read the following, okay? Third quarter, Bo Nix, short right to Devon Vele, runs out of bounds for 14 yards. I'm thinking, oh my God, fantastic. Penalty, holding by Javonte Williams called back. Okay, no big deal. I'm awake for that fourth quarter. We all saw it. Again, Bo Nix to Devon Vele, 13 yards. Penalty, ineligible man downfield. Sometimes it's not meant to be. 2 penalties that pull back 13 and 14 yard receptions, which would have made this play hit, is disgusting. Okay, this just goes to show that I am human, but man, this sucks. This was, it should have hit. It is what it is. We'll get better. We will continue to be as accurate as possible, but man, 2 penalties just absolutely taking me out by the shins is brutal. Either way, for the next hour plus, we're going to be answering fantasy football related questions. If you guys have any questions, be sure to include your scoring format. That would be greatly appreciated. Additionally, if you guys are going to send in a question, like Infinity and Bijan just did, make sure that your question is attached to your overall super and include whether it is a standard, full, or half PPR scoring format. The more context you provide, the easier it'll be. Outside of that, again, the video was posted earlier today in regards to rankings. This upcoming weekend schedule of upcoming streams. Again, tomorrow night we'll also stream. Same thing for Saturday afternoon, 1 to 3 p.m. And starting at 6 a.m. Sunday morning, because there is another London game between the Jaguars and New England Patriots, I will be streaming as early as 6 a.m. PST. So for those of you interested, be sure to swing on by. All right. Let's see here. The first question of the day comes in from Infinity and Bijan, but there's nothing attached to it. So I'm going to see if I can find your question in the live chat, Bijan. Let's see. All right. Bijan says, was offered Montgomery and Kelsey for Reed and Laporta. Okay, cool. My other running backs are Josh Jacobs and Kareem Hunt. Yeah, I'll take the deal. I have no issue with that at all. Sounds good to me. I'll take the Kelsey and Montgomery side for the rest of the season. Again, especially considering Kareem Hunt will eventually disappear if you don't have Pacheco to be able to kind of sustain that running back consistency for the remainder of the season. I think this is a great trade for you. You bring in a top 12 running back. You bring in a better tight end between the two. And yeah, I think overall, this improves your team for the future. Thank you, Infinity and Bijan. Appreciate it. Moving on to Easy E's question, who says the following. Was offered Dobbins and Addison for Mixon? It depends. Look, Addison, in my mind, going forward, he'll have value. But once Hawkinson is at a full force, Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson are going to be the primary number 1 and 2 of this offense. And of course, we typically see Aaron Jones catch the ball like 3-4 times a game. There's going to be opportunities for Addison, but not enough, in my opinion, to say like, oh, he's going to be a starter for you every week. He's more or less going to be someone that is going to rotate on bye weeks or because of injuries. If you're like super desperate for depth at wide receiver, I guess you could take this deal. Otherwise, I would try to keep Mixon for the remainder of the season. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Stinklore. Says, posting question right after. Cool, I see the question. Says, hey, Andrew, any suggestions on what I could do with my running backs? In a half PPR 10-man league, I have Kareem Hunt, David Montgomery, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, and Antonio Gibson. Trading in my league is pretty dead so far. Okay, so basically, if you don't knock somebody's socks off, you're not going to be able to make a deal. Ultimately, in the long run, having Montgomery with Hunt for right now because of Jonathan Taylor's injury will keep you sustained until the return of Jonathan Taylor. And once you get him back, you're good to go. Montgomery and Taylor will be your starters. Montgomery's already passed his bye week. They'll be your starters for the remainder of the season, and you'll be fine. If trading is not a position in which you can find yourself making moves in your league because, people just are either too smart or on the opposite end, just not smart enough to be able to understand that they need to improve their teams in order to win games. Really, it would matter like what the rest of your team looks like. You'd have to find a team maybe if you want to improve running back, which I don't think you need to. If you want to improve running back, you would take Taylor, go to a team that needs a running back themselves. But again, once you move Taylor, you're going to need a running back in exchange. So typically, oftentimes, you're not going to find someone that's going to take the injured running back unless you're getting the shit end of the overall deal. So overall, I would say you just stick with what you have. If you find someone in your league that wants to go 2 for 2, like a tight end and running back for their tight end and running back, and you find it comfortable to move whatever pieces you have, then go for it. But other than that, oftentimes if you're looking for a starting running back, teams aren't, in a 10-man league are going to ask for one in return because they typically don't have enough depth to be able to sustain it. Thank you. Xavier sends in a question. Says, in a PPR, David Montgomery and Ayuk or Josh Jacobs and Amari Cooper? For rest of season, I'd probably rather have David Montgomery and Ayuk. I like Amari Cooper, but again, the offense of the Buffalo Bills demonstrated last year with their current offensive coordinator, once he took over after that Denver game last season, they really don't highly utilize their number one. There's a reason why last season there were multiple games in which we saw both Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis disappear. It wasn't a priority for the offense. So yes, they did bring in Amari Cooper, and it does help them with the receiving core, just get a little bit more competitive on the outside specifically. You don't want to have Mac Hollins running your most important routes every single week. But Amari Cooper, he's still going to be solid, but I don't know if he's... Yeah, I think the biggest difference is that I just want to keep David Montgomery in this circumstance. I think Amari Cooper and Ayuk for rest of the season could be very much so similar. I just rather have the David Montgomery side of this overall conversation. Thank you. Moving on to a question that came in from Thomas Dabney. Thomas, where is your question? Let's see if I can find it in the live chat right now. I see it. It says, I have Josh Allen, Jacobs, Hubbard, Garrett Wilson, Jamar Chase, Pitts, Neighbors, Cup. Bench is Love, Achane, DG. Okay, so you've got a ridiculous team as far as I can see. Waivers have Olave and DK. Okay, very well. So it's a smaller league. Do I go for them? Yes. If I was in your position right now, I would be dropping. Let's see here. Yeah, if I was in your position, I would drop Ayuk for DK Metcalf. And then subsequently after, what I would do is probably, I guess it's a matter of your preference on the matter. You could probably swap if Hawkins. Okay, so this is the approach that I'm thinking of. So DK would take the spot of Ayuk. Then additionally, once we get a designation that Hawkinson's going to play this week, I think if I was in your position, I would drop Pitts, put Hawkinson in your tight end starting position, then pick up Olave and throw him in your IR. That's the way that I go about it, Thomas. Thank you. It's Kafka sends in a question. It says, trade Flowers/Ingram for Mahomes and Singletary. It depends on what kind of format we're talking about. In a bubble, the answer is absolutely not. If we're talking about a super flex format and you don't have a second QB because you just lost Fields or something like that, then I can understand it. Outside of that kind of a circumstance, no, we're keeping Flowers and Ingram. I don't want Mahomes because really he's just not reliable enough. Thank you. Peanut Butter sends in a question. Says, offered Brian Robinson, Dell, Kirk for BTJ, Addison, and Hunt. I'd rather have the Brian Robinson side of that deal. So if that's the one that you are getting, then you would take it. Because again, Hunt eventually will disappear. And I'd rather have the running back that in the long run is going to be sustainable within the overall offense. And an offense that is a top tier one in the league. Brandon DeCoste says, I want to say thanks. Winning the leagues I care about. No problem. Glad to help. Let's see here. Payable. Yeah, Payable. I guess that's your name. Payable. Either way. Give Amon-Ra and Laporta for BTJ, Bowers, and Juju. Probably not. Juju already popped up on the injury report with a hamstring issue this week. So I don't even know if he plays. As for what he's going to provide to your team in the long run, I don't know if it's going to be consistent. So if I'm just looking at Amon-Ra Laporta versus BTJ Bowers, I'd rather just keep Amon-Ra out of that overall conversation. Thank you. Moving on to Nathaniel Samuel, who says, should I trade Garrett Wilson for DK Metcalf? I don't mind the trade. Ultimately, I think their value range is very, very similar, to the point to where I think going forward, they probably have similar numbers the rest of the season. To the point to where if you'd like to, yeah, go for it. Otherwise, it doesn't bother me. Thank you. Jay in the live chat says, if Kupp misses week 7, should I start Parkinson at tight end, or it's you'd start Parkinson? Thank you. Heisenberg sends in a question, says, in a full PPR, would you trade Godwin for Jahmyr Gibbs? My second running back is Antonio Gibson and Tyrone Tracy with Pacheco on the IR. My wide receivers are Neighbors, Reed, Waddle, Godwin, and BTJ. Okay, understood. Currently 3-3. Should I wait for Pacheco or go for Gibbs? I mean, look, I don't think you can wait for Pacheco. If we get into a scenario here, Heisenberg, in which, Antonio Gibson continues to play below par and Devin Singletary comes back and takes the job from Tyrone Tracy, you'd be put in a position to where you don't really have an RB2 on a consistent basis, and you need to have one in order to string together some victories here. If you're going to be trading away Godwin, I have a hard time thinking that the best you can get back is Gibbs, but if it is, then you take it, right? But I mean, as of right now, when I'm looking at like the points per game average of a Jahmyr Gibbs-esque player, 16.6 in comparison to in a full PPR, Chris Godwin, who as of right now is averaging nearly 21 points per game. I'd hope that you could get something more out of Godwin, but if this is the max capacity of it, no one's offering up, Kyron Williams, etc., then yeah, we'll take it and we'll be happy with it, because again, it will provide you a lot of running back depth for the future. He's past his bye week additionally, and on top of it, you already have enough wide receiver strength to be able to handle such a deal. Thank you. Tomasi676 sends in a question, says, my quarterback is Stroud. Wide receivers are London, Wilson, Tank, Higgins, Ayuk. My running backs are Gibbs, Montgomery, and Najee Harris. Tight ends are Ferguson and Njoku. In a full PPR, would you make any trades or moves? I mean, looking at your team, Stroud doesn't need to be moved. London, Wilson, Tank, Dell, Higgins, Ayuk. Again, I don't really feel like they need to be moved. Gibbs, Montgomery, Najee Harris. I'm fine with that. Ferguson and Njoku. I mean, look, do you need to make moves? No. Should you be looking to potentially move? Yes. Mainly because, again, at this point, you have enough wide receiver depth that if you don't play in a 3 wide receiver league or a double flex league to where you can't start like 4 players at wide receiver every week, you're benching pretty much 2 studs or quote unquote studs every week out of this group because you have a lot of depth. So what I would look to do is take like Tank Dell and T Higgins and try to 2-for-1 for one of those stud wide receivers at the top of your league, right? So that's what I would look to do, because I would want to have that. Now, if you are playing in a league that has a more expanded starting roster, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 flex, or something of that exchange, to where it's not a start 7, but rather a start 9 or 10, at that point, I would keep it as is, because you want the depth and you want the ability to kind of pivot in case of injuries and or upcoming bye weeks, etc. Thank you. Moving on to Gem Hunter, who says, in a PPR, should I start one between Tank, J-Mo, Demario Douglas, and Najee Harris. Out of those available options, I'm starting Tank Dell as my number 1. I guess Demario Douglas could be the number 2. I'd probably just say, just to be safe, it'd be like Tank Dell number 1, J-Mo number 2, Douglas 3, Najee 4 in a full PPR. Thank you. All right, moving on from Gem Hunter, we have like the jeans _ who says, full PPR, my running backs are Henry, Jacobs, Chubb, Justice Hill, and Roshan Johnson. I'm currently 4-2. Someone offered me Emmanuel Wilson. Should I drop Roshan Johnson or Hill for Wilson? Oh, sorry, not someone offered me. Someone dropped Wilson. Yeah, cool. Let's drop Roshan Johnson and let's pick up Emmanuel Wilson just to ensure that you have your backfields kind of set in stone. Yeah, that's cool with me. I have no issue with that. Unless you anticipate to see, DeAndre Swift getting injured sometime soon, I think it'd probably just be better to ensure that you have the handcuffs to your blue chip running backs. So yeah, I take that. I drop Roshan and pick up Emmanuel Wilson. Thank you. Let's see here. Moving on to AJ's question. AJ says, trade Evans for Adams in a PPR, have Hall already. Yeah, I'll take the deal. I'd rather have Adams in a full PPR scoring format in comparison to Evans. Thank you. Moving on to Jake String, who says, Douglas over 45 receiving yards prop this week? Yes. If that is the actual number, I'm going to take it right now. One moment, please. Let me just go ahead and let's check. So let's look up Demario Douglas. Yeah, it's at 46.5 from when I'm looking at it right now, but I'll take the higher on that. And it's at a 1.11x. I'm actually pretty happy with that. So, you know what, while we're at it, let's put together a quick slip for those of you guys who are interested in potentially following. Let's go ahead and let's shift over to the screen capture. Peter, I did see that you sent in a question. So, let's see what we can theoretically put together that, I mean, honestly could end up hitting this week just based on the sheer potential. Now, I really do believe that this game just has a bunch of hires to be taken. Like I'm legitimately of the opinion that this is a hire. I think 73 is not enough for him. This is going to be a game in which they're throwing for the entire contest. Let's see. What else is there to, I mean, I could theoretically take Jefferson going higher, but I think 92 is a little bit of, even though, what is it, 7 of the last 8 games in which he's taken on Detroit, he's gone surpassed 130 receiving yards. I get it. That's a ridiculous, stat line. For now, I'll just, I'll stay away from it for now. Let's see here. What else could we theoretically kind of cook up here? Someone says, I didn't realize it's snowing behind you. It's not snowing. It's actually confetti. But yeah, when we switch back, you'll see. Let's see here. Where else could we? I mean, dude, you know what I noticed this week? A lot of the numbers got way sharper in terms of the overall impact of what they're sitting at. Like, these numbers were never this sharp. I'm telling you, they never were. We'll take higher on this. I really like that, especially with Tyler Lockett missing another practice today. I like, this actually doesn't. We have a lot of slot receivers here. Hold up, wait a minute. Who's another slot receiver we might want to throw into this? Let's go scrolling around here. Maybe Devontae Smith, going higher on that. Okay, so there's 4 slot receivers. And then we need one more. Okay, scrolling past this. Nope, there's no slot receivers in this game that I'm interested in. Not really in this game either. If Cooper Kupp had some numbers here, I'd probably take it. Obviously, we're still waiting on his potential. What's another slot receiver? I think that's probably where I'll take it for now. Okay, cool. I'm down with this. 25 for 277. Let's make it 20. 20 for 222. I like that number. All right, cool. So we'll take the higher on. Wait, did I just take higher on his reception? Hold up. Wait a minute. Everybody stay calm. Live. Wait. Okay, everybody stay calm. I got to switch screens here. Let's go to there. I need to go in here, and I need to cancel that. So let's go live, pick 'em, boom, cancel entry. Got it. Okay, it was canceled. We're good. Going back. Okay. You see this? It's not snowing. It's confetti. All right, going back. Hold up. Wait a minute. We have to re-put that together. Back to the beginning. Okay. So what did we do? We did Demario Douglas going higher on receiving yards. Then it would be Amon-Ra going higher on receiving yards. Then we went with Devontae Smith higher on receiving yards. And then what was the last slot receiving option? God, why am I how am I pulling JSN higher on receiving yards? There you go. 20 for 200. We'll take that. That's fine by me. All right, beautiful. All right, with that all taken care of, let's go ahead and let's pop back into the live stream and continue to answer some of these questions, shall we? Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so we continue on. We saw a question that came in from Peter Macy, who says the following. Where did Peter's question go? Is it somewhere in the chat? Questions below. What's funny, Peter? I don't see the question. All right, there it is. It says flex this week, Pollard or Higgins in a full PPR. I'd probably still play Pollard in that circumstance. Let me check my rankings in a full PPR just to see if they coincide with that. Okay, so as it currently stands, yeah, okay, so this is what I currently have. I currently do have Higgins ahead of Pollard. So then that's what I'd go with. As of earlier today's Patreon rankings, yeah, I do have Higgins ahead of Pollard, mainly because of that I guess the Buffalo matchup. But now that I think about it, I don't know, I almost just don't want to ever sit Pollard, but it is what it is at this moment. All right, continuing on, we have the next question that comes in from, I trust, Andrew from 5 hours ago when he was prepping those rankings rather than the one that sits in front of you right now. Don Roy Morales sends in a question, says in a half PPR, Goff, Pat, or May? Okay, so between those three, I'd rather play Goff out of the group and then ask for Sermon or Goodson. If Sermon's healthy, you kind of have to play him because he is still the clear and away number one back in terms of snap counts and overall carries within the backfield. He did return to practice today, so I'm assuming he will play in the absence of Jonathan Taylor. Corey Miller sends in a question, says in a 12-team PPR, pick one out of Addison, Juju, Tracy, Singletary, Lockett, and Waddle. Okay, so if I'm playing one of these available options, it would be Tracy if Singletary is out this week. Otherwise, the play is going to be most likely, let's go to PPR rankings. Out of all these options, I do have Juju ranked he would be the highest. So it would go Tracy number 1, Juju number 2. If both those players don't play because it's Singletary and Juju, I would then just play, because both those are injured, then I just play Addison. Thank you, Corey. Moving on to Daniel Delgado, who says, I just traded Bijan and Evans for JJ and Pollard. Cool, perfect. I think you made an upgrade there. I'm 1-5. My team has Geno, Kenneth Walker, Connor, Charbonnet, Algier. We have Rashad White, Devontae Adams, Josh Downs. We have Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Evan. Yeah, you're good to go. I think at this point, just let it ride. I mean, obviously, I want a better quarterback than Geno Smith, but for this week, I think it'll suffice. Geno, Walker, Tony Pollard as your second RB, JJ with Adams, probably flexing Connor in this circumstance. Ingram at tight end. I think that's a pretty solid roster, Daniel. Lelexel sends in a question, says, in a half PPR, 12-team league with 2 flex options, we're 3-3, Burrow, Gibbs, Hunt, Neighbors, Debo, Ayuk, Mostert, McBride. My bench consists of Geno, Dowdle, ETN, Spears, Juju, Judy, Nico. What move should I make? I mean, look, at this point, if you start to string together way too many losses, then you have to ship off of Nico. That would be the only way to kind of right the ship. But until then, I think Burrow, Gibbs, Hunt, Neighbors, Debo, I mean, those are players that McBride, I don't move them. Those are guys that are going to be consistent options every week for you that truly are going to be able to help you capture victories. Once Dowdle comes back, that's great. Juju, if he's healthy in some sort of circumstance, could be a solid option in a PPR, but it is a half, so it depends on obviously his touchdown upside in those situations. But as of right now, with a double flex format, unless you are 2-for-2 trading, I don't want a 2-for-1 in this circumstance because I want to keep the depth as is until I can get past these bye weeks, the injuries, etc. So if you start stringing together losses, like let's say you lose this week and then you look at down the barrel of next week and you got a bunch of teams on bye or complete shambles, then at that point you'd be shipping off Nico to try to get some help at wide receiver or running back. But I don't think you'll need it. I think you'll be fine going forward. Mark Marr says, should I trade CeeDee Lamb for Kyren Williams? I don't mind that. Again, if you trade CeeDee for Kyren, I think at the end of the day, they're both going to put up very similar numbers. Now that you're going to potentially get back Kupp and Puka in the next 2 weeks here, Kyren's overall baseline of production will be that much more, potentially higher based on the fact that they're moving the chains. They're getting him to far better situations in terms of red zone appearances, which again, he is a monster in those circumstances. So yeah, I don't mind it. Justice Reborn says, thoughts on Cam Akers going to the Vikings? Like the head coach of the Vikings said earlier this week, Kevin O'Connell, he said that it wasn't a matter of, it being he said it wasn't speaking to the idea that Aaron Jones is dealing with an injury. It's rather they wanted to just improve their depth at the running back position, which again, it makes sense because again, if they didn't trade for him, chances are the Texans were going to cut him because they got Dameon Pierce and Joe Mixon back just recently, and they couldn't roster all those players, and they didn't want to put him down back to the practice squad because a team could just claim him there. So they traded him away because they knew that if they moved him down to the practice squad, it would just, or actually no, he had to technically sign to the active roster because he played 3 or more games. So technically the only way that they could have gone about it is either cutting him or trading him, and obviously they found the value in trading him. And again, he played there last year, so it's just a matter of getting him back and getting more comfort in a running back that they believe in. Again, you're only as strong as your weakest player, and improving running back is something that they thought was a priority. Paul Adams sends in a question, says, my quarterback is Mayfield. My wide receivers are Reed, Deontay Johnson, McLaurin, Hill, Shakir. Shakir is out for the season. Oh, no, not Shakir. Shaheed is out for the season. I apologize. I saw Shakir, and I thought immediately of Rashid Shaheed and how terrible tonight's game was in the absence of him, of course. Okay, anyway, getting back to your question. So you have Shakir, you have running backs Kyren Williams, Pollard, Swift, Chubb, Ray Davis. Tight ends are Andrews, Hawkinson. Defense is Denver. Congratulations. Kansas City. McLaughlin is my kicker. Rate my team and tell me what players you suggest to trade for. I mean, look, trading for specific players is very much so dependent on play. Again, guys, listen. I can tell you a bunch of names, and I'm going to tell you a bunch of names. But as to whether or not you're able to get them is based on which manager in your league has them, how frequently they like to trade. Additionally, what pieces they need in order to make a trade happen, right? Like when I look at your team, I want Hawkinson as your tight end rest of the season, good to go. When I look at your wide receivers, I want to trade Deontay Johnson away as soon as possible. So I'm keeping Reed and I'm keeping McLaurin. I'm keeping Hill. I'm trying to trade Deontay Johnson for anybody of the realm of a Kupp, Puka, Devontae Smith, Let's throw out a DK Metcalf, DJ Moore. I'm trying to get some of those players. As for your running backs, Kyron, Pollard, Swift, Chubb, don't really think you need to move anything. In my personal opinion, I'd keep it as such. So really, it's just moving Deontay and potentially trying to get more wide receiver kind of compensation in return. Thank you. Tan Fam sends in a question, says PPR start 3. We have Flowers, Garrett Wilson, Evans, and Kupp. Yeah, and Wanda Robinson. Got it. So if I was starting your team, and if, like, let's say, for example, I had your phone and I was setting your lineup, if Kupp is active this week, he starts alongside of Flowers and Garrett Wilson. If, in fact, he is not active this week, then your third man up would be Evans. Now, Evans obviously dealing with a little bit of an injury himself. We're going to assume he plays because he's a tough son of a gun, so it would be Flowers, Garrett Wilson, and Evans. But let's say, for example, both Evans and Kupp are out. Obviously, the 3 that you start would be pretty much preset for you because you had no other alternative options. You then play Flowers, Garrett Wilson, and Wandale Robinson. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Moving on to Rogo, who says, "Sup, Andrew? Starters are correct as of right now. We have standard half PPR. We have CJ Stroud, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Smith, Gibbs, Montgomery, Kincaid, Higgins, Seibert." Okay, so looking at the team overall, looking at the bench, I prefer to play Baker Mayfield over CJ Stroud. That's a personal preference of mine. You have Kareem Hunt on the bench, which I think is perfectly fine. Is it a full PPR? It's a half PPR. Okay, we can discuss that. We have Cooper. We have Debo on the bench. So, I mean, look, I think the only things that I would theoretically trade, kind of exchange off here, is if, in fact, by the time we get to Sunday, if Jordan Mason is healthy and ready to go, he plays in your flex. That's the only thing that I would change as of right now regarding this team. Otherwise, keep it as is. Thank you. Paul Adams sends in a question, says, also, who do you drop once Hawkinson and Chubb come back? Okay, let me go ahead and let me see where your team is. Okay, so who do I drop once Hawkinson and Chubb? I mean, they're both back this week most likely. If Hawkinson's back, I legitimately am in a position to where you drop your second defense. So Kansas City's got to go. And then you are dropping either Shakir or Ray Davis, which I would say Ray Davis is the drop, mainly because he just popped up on the injury report. And additionally, James Cook was a full participant in practice. So you would drop Kansas City defense and Ray Davis in order to pull Chubb and Hawkinson off of your IR spots. Thank you, Adam. Moving on to George, who says, standard, Juju, J-Mo, Douglas, Pittman, pick 2. Okay, so of those available options, and a standard league where you get 0 points per reception, I'm playing J-Mo, and I'm also playing most likely Juju Smith-Schuster if he's active. If he's not active, obviously, then you just pivot to playing DeMario Douglas. Thank you. AJ sends in a question, says, trade Harris, Bucky for Jacobs and Moss. I'm comfortable with that. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. The way that I see it, Bucky and Moss are not really going to be starters for your team. Moss and Bucky are in situations where the starter ahead of them are injured, they get a start within your league. Therefore, it's just a matter of who do we prefer, Jacobs or Najee Harris rest of season. Right now, I would say that Jacobs is the preferred of the two. Thank you. Hector Hernandez sends in a question. Says, Andrew, I have Jordan Mason and Kareem Hunt. Considering that Mason does not play, which running backs, considering more like hypothetically speaking, if Mason does not play, which running back can I pick up? I have Sean Tucker stashed as well. I mean, if Mason doesn't play, you'd pick up Garendo, right? And you'd play him. If that is not an available opportunity kind of position to where you could pick him up and start him, in terms of like waiver wire players that you could theoretically maybe get, maybe somehow, some way, like somebody dropped Jaylen Warren recently, you could pick up and play him. Tyler Goodson's another good option where you could potentially pick up and play him. Jeremy McNichols, if Brian Robinson Jr. is not available this week. What else? JaMychal Hasty, if ETN is out, could work. But those are very much so hypothetical situations in which, the players ahead of them are injured. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed. And you can just kind of ride. I mean, if Rachaad White's out, then I guess Sean Tucker could be an available option as well. Thank you. Moving on to Corey, who sends in a question. Says, the name is Yo, I'm Corey. And I've been calling you Yom Corey for like... Anyway, that's why you need an apostrophe. Anyway, moving on. Yo, I'm Corey says, trade Mason and BTJ for Amon-Ra. Yeah, cool. Sounds good. I don't have Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, that's cool. I'll take Amon-Ra rest of the season. Thank you. Easy E sends in a question. Says, traded Jacobs and a waiver pickup Watson for Achane. Cool. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't mind giving up Jacobs and Christian Watson for Achane rest of the season. Thank you. Again, what Achane is going to provide in a system where there is a healthy Tua Tagovailoa is top 5 upside of the running back position because that's where he was prior to the overall injury of Tua. Thank you. The next question comes in from Tomasi676, who says, full PPR trade Garrett Wilson for Achane? Yeah, absolutely. I'd be comfortable doing that. Again, it's looking forward to the future. There is a possibility that it all could go wrong. Tua gets hit one more time. He unfortunately sustains another concussion, and then it's over. And at that point, we can kiss our season goodbye and just continue on playing underdog. Thank you. Moving on. We had a question that comes in from Ben Key, who says, Brian Robbins Jr. and Cup for Gibbs and Adams. I have Cup. Yeah, I'd be perfectly fine making that trade in which you can get Gibbs and Adams in exchange. Yeah, that sounds good to me. It would be even more opportune if it was a full PPR. Thank you. Chronofied sends in a question, says, I was offered Gibbs for Brees. Man, a lot of people are being offered Gibbs, which is crazy to me. I think Gibbs is only going to get better. Anyway, I was offered Gibbs for Brees. Are you still confident that, yes, I think that, I'm still confident in the idea that Brees Hall going forward is a better option than Jahmyr Gibbs in this circumstance. Yes, that is correct, Chronofied. Especially with the offensive enhancements that they have most recently made with the offensive coordinator change. They got back Morgan Moses, their starting right tackle, which again is one of the best run blocking tackles in the league. They got Devontae Adams. They're going to be able to move the chains very much efficiently over the course of the next couple weeks here for the rest of the season, in fact. So yes, I'm comfortable there. I'd rather have Brees. Thank you. Drew sends in a question. Says, Amon-Ra for Zay Flowers and Devontae Smith in a 8-team full PPR. You'd only ever make a deal of this capacity in an 8-team league if you are simply just beat up with injuries. If your team cannot sustain the injuries that they have accrued over the course of this season thus far, you don't have enough depth to be able to survive, then yes, you would make a trade of this caliber. But otherwise, Amon-Ra is a significantly better option than the two, even though he hasn't played consistently 20 points per week. He's done it, in a 3-game streak from weeks, 2 through 4. He's demonstrated that he is a stud option. So I'd keep him unless, of course, you needed the depth for the future. Thank you. It's Kafka sends in a question, follow-up. Says, trade James Cook and Evan Ingram for Achane. I'm okay with it. I have McBride and Jacobs. So you don't need Ingram, and you're just basically trying to get that better of the running backs. Okay, that's fine by me. That works. I'm cool with that. Thank you. Coinflip sends in a question, says, PPR sit 1, Breece Hall, Montgomery, J.K. Dobbins, Kareem Hunt. Out of those 3 available options, I'm sitting Kareem Hunt this week. I'm starting Breece, Montgomery, and J.K. Dobbins. All 3 of those in my top 13 running back rankings for this week. Half PPR and full PPR. Let's see here. Eber De La Hoya sends a question. Says, J.K. Dobbins plus Marvin Harrison for Neighbors and Ramondre Stevenson. So here's the issue that I have with this overall situation. Ramondre Stevenson is probably not going to play again this week. So that leads me to believe that there's a possibility that the injury that he's sustained, whatever it ends up being, I don't know how severe it is something that could end up tailing him for the remainder of the season. And based on where the New England Patriots are going for the remainder of the season, remember that once we start getting into the later half of the season, once you have teams that are, in the NFL, okay, their records are 2-7, right? 2-8. 3-6, so whatever the heck it ends up being. Once you get those teams having players that get injured, teams will feel far more inclined to send their players to the IR and shut them out for the remainder of the season in order to make sure that they're healthy for the following year. So be very careful. The same thing happened with Ramondre, where he got put to the IR and they shut him down for the remainder of the season based on his injury late last season. That's what scares me. So this is pretty much, in my opinion, it could potentially end up being a 2-for-1. Now, if Ramondre comes back, I'll take the deal. If not, again, I think the risk might not be worth the reward at the end of it. If it's just a 2-for-1 and Marvin gets healthy and is ready to go, I think I'd probably just rather have the J.K. Dobbins side with the Marvin. Thank you. Paul Adamson in a follow-up says, should I combo Deontay Johnson plus Chubb or Swift for Pollard? Deontay Johnson and Chubb, Swift, or Pollard. Okay, if I'm giving away one of those 3 backs, I'm giving away Chubb. I don't want any association with the offense of the Cleveland Browns unless his name is David Njoku. So Deontay and Chubb would be the send-off as of right now. Thank you. And if it's difficult to move him now because of the overall injury that he sustained last year and the fact that he hasn't played thus far this season, I don't know if his value will go up after this week. You would hope that he could potentially go up, but I think it would be maybe harder to trade him after this week if he doesn't have a good solid performance against Cincinnati. So you might want to get it done now before later. Jay Cakes sends in a question, says Evans, Jacobs, Coop for Bijan, Terry, Puka. Context in the chat. All right, without context, just looking at the trade alone. Bijan versus Jacobs, I'd rather have Bijan. pretty clearly. Terry McLaurin versus like Mike Evans right now, I think is very similar value rest season. Then if we're talking about Puka Nacua and Coop, I'm assuming that is Amari Cooper, I'd rather have Puka Nacua. So I'm just going to take the Bijan Robinson side of that deal 10 times out of 10 with no context available. I'll check out the context in a moment. Jersey Style says, Kincaid or Otten in a full PPR? I need points because of Kamara, bro. Yeah, I'd rather play Kincaid out of the two. Thank you. Again, earlier today, we dropped quarterback and tight end rankings video. If you guys haven't checked it out, be sure to do so. It's live here on the channel. Thank you. Galactic123 sends in a question. Says, in a 12-man full PPR, we have 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex. I have to sit one between Bijan, Kyron, Jacobs, Drake London, Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp. Yeah, I think the decision will be made for you. And the reason why I say that is because Deontay Johnson hasn't practiced Wednesday or Thursday. Cooper Kupp could eventually or potentially not play this week because, again, they may not feel the need to play him because he's maybe not at 100%, or they may not need to play him in order to even win against the Raiders. That could be a cakewalk for them. So in this circumstance, like, you're playing Bijan, you're playing Kyron as your RB1 and 2. You're playing Drake London as your wide receiver 1. Whichever one of Coop or Deontay Johnson, if they're both healthy, they both play, and you're benching Josh Jacobs. But whichever one of the two ends up getting injured and doesn't play this week, not ends up getting injured, but ends up staying injured and not playing this week, they would be plugged in as your wide receiver 2, and then Jacobs would play in the flex. So the decision is going to be made for you rather than you making the decision alone based on, of course, their availability. Paul Adams says, Swift and Chubb for Breece and Allen. When you say Allen, what do you mean? Is that Keenan Allen or is that Braylon Allen? Type it in the live chat. Thank you. I'm going to continue on by answering Jorge Perez's question. Jorge just sent in a super. Jorge says, hi, Andrew. In a full PPR, Puka is available. Should I pick him up? Yes. If so, who would you drop? Charbonnet, Chase Brown, Hunt, Tracy, or Love? I would drop Charbonnet like a bad habit. Other wide receivers are Devontae, Mooney. Yeah, cool. Doesn't matter. I'm dropping Charbonnet in a heartbeat. Should have been done weeks ago. Thank you. Alrighty. Hope you guys are doing well again. That was a very interesting Thursday game, wasn't it? Listen, in my home league, I'm glad I have the Denver Broncos defense. I'm glad I picked them up a couple weeks back. They got me a nice solid 20 points. I'm already projected to win by, 25 points. I guarantee you I lose by 25 this week. Based on how I know this season is gone for me, for my home league, when you typically, when I'm projected to win by 25, Andrew loses by 25. I don't know if I'm the only one that experiences that. Maybe you guys do as well. But it just feels like that's just a commonality of the circumstance for how the season's kind of just, panned out thus far. All right, let's see what we have in the live chat. Crazy Clip says, have Achane, Henry, and Kyron. Okay, cool. So you'd keep them for the remainder of the season. Do I trade away Dowdle and Pop for Olave? I'm cool making that trade. Yeah, sounds good to me. Crazy Clips. Yeah, sounds good. Luke Farrell in the live chat says, Jorge, drop whoever for Puka. I drop Charbonnet. Exactly, Luke. Luke knows what he's talking about. John Zavala says, Andrew, who should I start this week? Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, or Justin Herbert? Out of the three, I have Sam Darnold as the highest ranked. Second highest would be Aaron Rodgers, and then third would be Justin Herbert. So that would be the order. Darnold, Rodgers, Herbert. Thank you. Bobby Hamilton in the live chat says, rest of season full PPR. Who would you rather have, DeAndre Hopkins or Juju Smith-Schuster? I'd rather have Juju because DeAndre Hopkins, in order for him to have value for the future, he would require to be traded away from the Tennessee Titans, which, again, I can't predict future trades unless a player comes out and says, I want to be traded. At that point, then we can say, all right, sure. But for right now, it would be Juju. Let's see here. Sail in the chat says, James Cook or Josh Jacobs this week? Yeah, I'd take James Cook. Now that he fully participated in practice, I don't care that they play the Titans. I think they're going to run through that team. Mr. Nice Guy says Puka has about 10% chance of playing this year. Wow, that's an interesting number. If you don't have IR, I mean, I don't know where you got that number from, but I'm sure you got it from some sort of doctor, right? Because I don't know where 10%. That's a pretty bleak number. Frenzy 40K says, would you rather have rest of season, Burrow or Stroud? I'd rather have Burrow rest season. Thank you. Ando says, in a half PPR flex spot, was that Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, James Conner, or Nick Chubb? As of this week in a half PPR, I'd probably rather just start James Conner out of the group. Thank you. Paul Adams says the handcuff. Got it. Okay, so that would leave you with, yeah, you know what? I take the deal. I'll take Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. That sounds good to me. I think your running back room at that point, Paul, would be ridiculous, bro. That would be, yeah. Let's take that deal. Sounds good to me. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Frosty in the chat says, I have a new, lose rule for myself moving forward. Better to have a second guy on a great offense than the top guy in an absolute travesty like the gutted Saints, LOL. I don't even know what the heck you mean by that. Do you mean like you'd rather have the second guy on a great offense? So like T. Higgins and Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith, is that what you mean? Like the second guy, like the number 2 wide receiver, Frosty? Is that what you're referring to? Brandon in the live chat says, hey, Andrew, in a 10-team PPR, I got Evans, Kupp, Devontae Smith, Higgins for wide receiver. Okay. Smith, Higgins for wide receiver. Can I trade away Evans for an elite running back? My current ones are Mason. Yes, you have to trade for an elite running back. As for who you can go after, though, it's going to be difficult. I don't know if like the market of Evans is not going to be great because he's not coming off a great performance. I think people, for some reason, are kind of blinded to that. They have the more, I would say from my experience, people have the what have you done for me lately kind of situation for fantasy. They don't look at the potential of the future. But like if you can somehow, some way wrangle up a trade in which you're getting a player of, I mean, like you can go many of different ways. You can go after Achane. You can go after Jonathan Taylor, injured running back. You could go after players that haven't played to their overall upside, Josh Jacobs-esque kind of player. You could still go after other injured running backs like an Aaron Jones. You could go after, James Cook. But ultimately, I think, yeah, I mean, if I had to guess, you'll probably end up getting a player like James Conner. That'll probably be the highest likelihood, considering he's also not coming off of a great performance. Brian Robinson Jr. could be a path that you potentially explore. Just depends on who in your league is more receptive to trading. I think that's really what it is, and who needs a wide receiver in your league and what they can potentially give you back in return. Thank you. Like obviously, I want you to go after Pollard or something of that exchange, but I don't think you'll be able to get that. Caesar sends in a question, says, "I'm 2-4. Start May." He's currently on the waiver wire over Kyler or Mahomes. Now, listen, I had my quarterback rankings posted earlier today on the channel. I do have Drake May via Patreon currently ranked as my number 20th overall quarterback. Like I mentioned in the video, I do believe that he is a startable option in a 2 QB league, but in a 1 QB league, I do believe there are better options overall. As for your second question regarding a trade, also traded Pitts JSN for Bowers. Yeah, it's fantastic. We'll take that. Not sure if you remember my team from a couple days ago. I do not remember your team. The volume of teams that I look at over the course of the day based on Patreon questions and live streams that we conduct and questions in the YouTube comment section, the volume of teams that I look at are so vast that I don't even remember some of the teams that I have, guys. That's just the reality. Like sometimes it just meshes together. It's just too much information. I can't retain it all. Thank you, though. Connor sends in a question. Says, I got offered 2 trades. My Reed/Burrow for CeeDee Lamb. Okay. My Reed/Burrow for London. Okay. I have AJ Neighbors. Yeah, cool. Okay. If it was me, I'd take either of the 2. I guess it's a matter of like, what do you prefer? If I had to tell you what I prefer rest of the season, I do believe that CeeDee Lamb will get back to being a number 1 wide receiver. If, like not the number 1 overall for the rest of the season for fantasy, but a number 1 in the sense that he's a top 5 rest of the season. Now, London is already there, so if you don't want to mess around and kind of, hitch your wagon to the Cowboys and their potential for their wide receiver 1, then you just go after London, and I think it's a great deal. Thank you. Laurent sends in a question. It's Lauren with a T, right? Lauren? I don't know how you want to pronounce this. Either way, I'm an idiot. Traded Joey B plus Juju for Dak plus Cup. Cool. Sounds good to me. No quarterback now. Stream? Yeah, let's stream. Absolutely. If you're going to stream, again, looking at some of the available options, Matthew Stafford's pretty good this week. Trevor Lawrence, Drake May. Those are a couple of the names, Justin Herbert, that are startable this week. But yeah, I'll take that trade. That sounds good to me. Thank you. Bacon sends in a question. Says, Singletary's on the waivers. Should I drop Bucky or Moss for him? I would drop Moss for Singletary. Because if he comes back and he takes full workload of that backfield, it's pretty much over. And the Tracy experience is done until he gets injured again. Thank you. All right. All right, so we go ahead and we'll do that, and we're good to go. Cool. So we move on to the next question that comes in from Raul Salas, who says, in a 10-team full PPR, I am 5-1. Lineup help. 2 running backs, already starting Kamara. Cool. 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. I have Montgomery, Gibbs, Kupp, Tyreek, Mooney, Jaden Reed, and McConkey. Okay, so of the available options you have, how are we going to set this lineup up for this week? Considering Kamara already played, the RB2 and the flex are going to be Montgomery, Gibbs most likely, and then you just play Kupp if he's available alongside of Jaden Reed. And if in fact Kupp is not available, you just play Tyreek Hill there in Kupp's stead. That would basically just be the way that I'd approach it. Thank you. Let's see here. Broncos defense got me 21 tonight. Let's go. How did you get 21? What kind of settings do you guys play in? I got 20 and I play in the correct settings. How did you get the extra point? I want the point. Like, that's what the heck's going on here. Let's see here. Raghav says in a 10-team PPR, traded Goddard for Love. I have Ingram and Ferguson. Perfect. I don't know how you got away with that, but that's fantastic. At tight end, I have Anthony. Yeah, good. That's a fantastic trade. Goddard's injured, so yeah, you cashed in on getting Love there, I guess. Let's see here. Andreas in the chat says, need help. I'm 2-4. I have Metcalf, CD, Neighbors, Puka, Waddle, and Shakir. What running back should I target? I mean, look, of the available that you have, I'm going to continue to I guess, go back to the main list of like, I want to try to get, or at least buy low, theoretically, on like a James Conner, an Aaron Jones, a Jonathan Taylor, if you can somehow scheme it, Josh Jacobs still, Devon Achane. Those are like just the base names. Now, if somehow, some way people are stupid in your league and they will give away Chase Brown, Tony Pollard, Brian Robinson Jr.'s, James Cooks of the world, if they want to give away Kenneth Walker's, then you just, you take advantage of it. But I doubt that will be the case, and you go after the prior names I mentioned. Bigsby or Jordan Mason in a PPR. T-Man, if Etienne is out and it's Bigsby versus that defense by himself, I would take Bigsby over Jordan Mason this week. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Rogo, who says, what's good Kincaid? What does it say? What's a good Kincaid plan? Wanted to trade Mason for Pacheco to free up a slot to grab a tight end, but I'm not sure that'll fall through. I don't want to give up anyone. I'm 4-2. There are so many letters used as words in this message that I don't even understand that I don't know how I read it, but either way, fantastic. We love it. We'll just keep it going. What's a good plan for Kincaid? Wanted to trade Mason for, I mean, if you can trade Mason for Pacheco, I guess it works if you have like Kareem Hunt and you don't have Christian McCaffrey, but even then, like in your position, you just keep it as is and you roll with Kincaid. I don't see that Kincaid's a bad option. If anything, the addition of Amari Cooper could open up more opportunity for Kincaid over the middle of the field, as he'll be less of a priority for the defense to try to stop. Let's see here. Jennifer sends in a question. Thank you, Jennifer. It says, Tracy, Juju, or risk Marvin Harrison's health. Marvin Harrison, backup is Vidal. So let me see here. NFL Week 7. I'm actually curious why you ask it in that manner. Is there like, okay, I know why. Because the Cardinals play on Monday night. Okay, so in this circumstance, okay, so this will be my idea. So the way that I approach it, if we get a confirmation that Devin Singletary is not playing this week, at that point, you're clear to play Tracy alongside a Juju, and those would be your two starters. Now, if in fact we are in a situation where perhaps Tracy is not the starting running back and Devin Singletary is back, you just play Juju, and then you'd risk it with Marvin Harrison with the pivoting option of Vidal. Now, if Vidal is the only pivoting option you have and no one, or everybody else is rostered, Michael Wilson, potentially even Greg Dortch in your league is already rostered. I'm trying to think of other wide receivers. Maybe Josh Palmer could be, because if Quentin Johnston doesn't play for the Chargers, that could be another pivoting option. But yeah, if Tracy does not get the starting spot because Devin Singletary is back, Jennifer, I'd play Juju with Marvin Harrison with one of those pivoting options I just mentioned. Otherwise, Vidal. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Bernie, who says, traded T. Hill, which I'm assuming is Tyreek Hill, Jordan Mason, for Josh Jacobs and Garrett Wilson. Your opinion? That's a great trade. Again, Jordan Mason, theoretically speaking, should disappear. Christian McCaffrey should return at a 100% healthy rate and take the league by storm. That's what he should do. As to whether he does it or not is to be determined. But in the overall outlook of the remainder of the season, I'm perfectly fine with that overall move. Because the way that I see it is like that team that's getting Mason has a 3-week rental until maybe, at the beginning of November. Not even 3 weeks. I would say it's probably 2 week here. 2-week rental until McCaffrey's maybe back. If anything, 3-week rental is fine. But then you have Jacobs and Garrett Wilson for the remainder of the season. I'm cool with that. Rest of the season, Koo or Aubrey. I mean, look, it depends on what kind of format you play in. If you get 5 points for every 50-yard field goal, I'd rather just have Aubrey. Easy E sends in a question, says, I have Walker, Montgomery, Achane. Most drop Hubbard for TJ Hawkinson. No, I would not drop Hubbard for TJ Hawkinson. I would drop Mostert for TJ Hawkinson. Thank you. Roy Powell sends in a question. Thank you, Roy. Roy says, are the Los Angeles Chargers defense good enough to drop Kansas City defense? Yes. Look, here's the thing. The Kansas City defense, unless you're playing in a different format than I am normally used to, Kansas City's defense this season for fantasy has put up 4, 11, 5, 6, and 7. So ultimately, they have put up a total of 33 points in the matter of 5 games here? So what is that? 6 points per game on average? 6.4? I don't know. Whatever that number ends up being. It's not great. 6.2? I'd much rather just roll with weekly starts every week rather than rolling with Kansas City, because Kansas City is a great in real life defense. They're not a great fantasy defense as of thus far this season, unfortunately. Let's see here. We move on to a question that comes in from John B, who says, did someone just say trade Kamara for Swift? No. Trevor, come on. Come on, Trevor, stop. John B says, trade away Chuba and Addison for Achane. Yeah, I'm cool with that. I'll take Achane rest of the season. Addison's my only wide receiver on my bench, worth starting at the moment, but it's tempting. Yeah, I don't think it's tempting. I think it's beyond tempting. I think it's something that I would do. But obviously it's dependent on, your comfortability with the risk that is implied with Achane, Tua, etc. in that offense. Tomasi676 says, give up Higgins/Najee to get Achane in a full PPR. If you can afford to lose wide receivers at that capacity in order to bring back an Achane, then yes, I would do it. Again, guys, I am very much so intrigued by risk. I am someone who is always going to take risk, especially considering how many fantasy leagues I play in. Yeah, and it's just, I always want to take risks because I truly do believe, okay, let's say, for example, you're playing in a league where you're like, all right, listen, I've already got a 5-1 team. I don't need to take any risk. I'm just going to get to the playoffs and just handle my business. Fine. And it's a very, very expensive buy-in. Then you don't take the risk. But if you're playing in everybody put in $50, what's $50? Let's risk it for the biscuit. Let's try to have fun here and let's try to go for actually winning the whole damn thing. Let's just not be a second round playoff out. All right, let's see here. Says, I know it's just a lot of people, including Bleacher Report, are saying to sell on Kamara, and Swift has been amazing. Yeah, listen, no comment. That's just, it's yeah. Anyway, not interested in that. SB8731 says, Higgins and Jamison Williams for Jefferson. I mean, if you can get away with that, then yes. I don't know how you would be able to, but I'd say absolutely. Trevor says, would you trade Kamara for Christian McCaffrey? Only if you have Jordan Mason. Otherwise, no. You got to remember, the offensive woes that exist as it currently stands with the Saints are only going to exist until the quarterback gets changed. And even then, in a full PPR tonight, let's see here. What did Kamara do? Do we have an actual week 7 output of Kamara? I'm going to check right now. Yeah, that's a rough week. 8.4 fantasy points, 6 receptions, and only 24 total yards. I get it. It's brutal. But, if you go look at Kareem Hunt's career, that's as bad as it's going to get. I mean, not Kareem Hunt, Alvin Kamara. If you look at Alvin Kamara's career, that's as bad as it's going to get. Yeah. Let's see here. SB says, I just pulled it off. Well, congratulations. Brian Colorado sends in a question. Thank you, Brian. Brian says, in a full PPR, start Montgomery or Jacobs this week. I'd rather play Montgomery. Trade Devontae Smith for Puka and Amari Cooper. Yeah, let's do that. I'm down with that. And drop the Jets or Broncos defense for Kmet. I drop the Jets defense in order to get Kmet. Or stream a tight end for Bowers. Yeah, you just pick up Kmet. That's fine. Frank H sends in a question. Says, full PPR, Bigsby, Garendo, if Mason is out. I'd rather play Bigsby there. Thank you. Alrighty, we took care of that. It's good to go. We move on to another question that comes in from Caesar. He says, Hill, Bijan, Cook, Smitty, Olave, Marvin Harrison, BTJ, Stevenson, Brooks. Who should I package and who should I target in a 2-4 situation? Or should I upgrade my quarterback? I mean, look, with Hill, Bijan, Cook, Smitty, Olave, Marvin Harrison, the way that I see it is that because Olave and Marvin Harrison aren't playing this week, and neither is Stevenson, and neither is Brooks, I'm looking to try to trade away Brooks to the Chuba Hubbard manager. I'm additionally trying to see if I can trade away Olave, Marvin Harrison, and Stevenson in order to try to bring back any sort of wide receiver or running back help that could give me depth on my team. I'm even willing to 2-for-1 in this circumstance. And enough to where, because I don't want to be in a 2-5 position, Caesar, because quite frankly, at 2-5, 7 weeks in the season, and then you have another 7 games until, what is that? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, 7 games. And in a league in which only 6 teams make the playoffs, you would theoretically need to win 5 of the next 7 games, which is a ridiculous task on hand. Not impossible, but definitely a tough one to potentially be able to kind of figure out. In this circumstance, yeah, that's what I'm doing this week. I'm trading away Stevenson, Marvin Harrison. I'm trading away Olave, and I'm trying to bring back some wide receiver depth. Now, who am I specifically looking for? Well, obviously, I need players that are healthy and playing this week in specific. So, as for available options that you could, specifically go after, Mike Evans is a potential option. DK Metcalf is a potential option. I'd even venture to say that if we look across the board here, I think Ayuk could be an option of a buy low candidate. I mean, you're not going to get Devontae Smith, but I would hope. Well, you already have Devontae Smith. What am I talking about? So you're fine there. What else is another? I mean, those would be it. Like Tyreek Hill could be an option to buy low on. But that would be it. So you'd have to venture down those paths and hope that they potentially, are fruitful. Jennifer sends in a follow-up, says, trade my Lazard for Charbonnet. I have Kenneth Walker in a 16-team league. So Lazard is not going to go anywhere per se. Like, he's going to play in the slot position like he has for the vast majority of the season thus far. Now, obviously, with the addition of Devontae Adams, he does disappear. If Lazard has not been a contributor to your team and he's not someone that you expect to contribute to your team for the remainder of the season, I'd say that yes, it would probably be in your best interest for the long term of the haul to have Charbonnet just in case, because if Kenneth Walker was to go down and you don't have Charbonnet, chances are that no one is in the waivers that is available to pick up and actually play going forward. So yeah, I don't mind that move, Jennifer. I think that's a great trade in terms of assuring that you're strong going forward. Let's see here. Duro Modi sends in a question, says, Drew, how do we feel about Aaron Jones? Trade my Jameson Williams for Aaron Jones? Yeah, if you can trade away Jameson Williams for Aaron Jones, I think it'd be in your best interest there. Yeah, sounds good. YG sends in a question, says, Javonte has been decent for 4 weeks. Has been decent? Brother, what was he last week? I don't categorize that as decent, bro. Let's see here. Javonte Williams last week had 3.1 fantasy points. So he's been decent for the full capacity of 4 weeks. Perhaps you could argue that. But again, a lot of it was backlogged to just this specific game. Otherwise, if we just purely compare him to the rest of the running back field in the last 3 weeks, not this week, because again, we can't compare him to anything because we haven't seen how the week has kind of transpired overall. If we look at, let's see here. So in week 4, he was RB 30 overall. In week 5, he was RB 15, and in week 6, he was RB 45. So pretty much, he's been RB 30 on average for the last 3 games, which again, in a 12-team league, is a contributing running back to your roster. Did he put up a great upside performance today? Absolutely, which is fantastic. But again, it's not like he was, he wasn't a dumpster fire. He was putting up points, but he hasn't been like you specifically say. I mean, I guess decent is the right word. He's been a decent, yeah, okay, that's fine. I can live with that designation. And now he has Carolina next. Yeah, of course, Carolina's going to be a fantastic matchup. What's his trade value? Sell high? I mean, you could probably sell him high. I mean, but again, you're probably going to get a lot out of him against Carolina to the point to where you might want to keep him, use him against Carolina, and then ship him off after as a sell high. Thank you. Zoe sends in a question, says, Andrew, I'm 0-6. Zoe, oh man, do I have to be the fantasy Grim Reaper here? Worst luck ever, bro. My team isn't bad. It's a full PPR 10-team league. My team is below. All right, so let me see where your team is. You have Allen, Montgomery, Connor, St. Brown, Pittman, Njoku, JT, Broncos with Dell, Downs, Hawkinson, Akers, Dobbs. Okay, I see where your team went awry. I know where exactly your team faltered over the course of the season. It's probably a couple losses of less than 5 points if I had to guess so myself. So based on what you have on roster, again, I don't see why Pittman is starting and why Dell isn't on your starting lineup, but that's a different complete conversation at the current moment. Hawkinson should probably also play over Njoku if in fact he's active, but that's a different conversation as well. Akers needs to probably be dropped because again, he doesn't really provide any value to your team. Means is not someone that you probably want to have on roster. Well, I mean, I guess you could. Yeah, you can hold on to him until Derek Carr comes back, but I don't know if that helps you. You're 0-6. You need to win out. You need to win the next 8 weeks consecutively, assuming you are in an 8, or if you're playing in a 10-team league or a 12-team league, and only 6 teams makes the playoffs, you need to win out. So the way that I go about this for the future of your season, okay, this is my suggestion. I don't actually believe that you have a bad team. I agree with you. You have a pretty solid team. Now, does it need to be changed as to who you're starting in order to improve your upside? Absolutely. But outside of that, going forward, as soon as your player hits the bye week, they're traded, they're gone, and they're not coming back. That is how this is going to work for you. JT this week, if he does not play, he needs to be traded. And that's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They need to be traded. You cannot afford to lose any more games. So JT, in my opinion, I'd already count him as not playing. I'd go trade him right now for a running back that is going to fill into your flex. Because really, if you do not win out and you're playing in a 12-man, 10-man league where 6 teams make the playoffs, you need 8 wins minimum. Otherwise, you need 7 wins and the most points for out of all the teams that are going to have 7 wins in that circumstance, which again is just too sketchy for me. So JT's gone. That's how we improve this team immediately. And I'd also say that Pacheco's gone because you don't need him. By the time you get to week 10 when he's playing, you may not be even contending anymore. He's got to go. Thank you. Moving on to the next question here, we have one from Lou who says, I'm 4-2. Is Bijan a sell high? I don't think he's a sell high. I have Hubbard and Mixon. Need a wide receiver. I'd be selling Hubbard. I wouldn't be selling Bijan in this circumstance. Thank you. Moving on, we had a question from Carlos Bruno who says, McLaurin for Connor. I have Kupp, Evans, Adams, and A.J. Brown. Considering the depth that you currently have, I would say yes, but I think Connor is too low of a buy for the compensation of McLaurin. I'd want to get somebody at a far greater rate. I'd go after legitimately James Cook, Jahmyr Gibbs-esque kind of players in comparison because, like, what we've seen Terry McLaurin accomplish from weeks 3 through 6 is enough to compel me to where I believe he is more valuable than Connor by a pretty good margin. So I try to get a little bit more out of it. If you can't and you still need the running back depth and that's the best you can get in exchange, then you take it. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. Jake G sends in a question, says trade away Achane for Chuba and Debo. Or trade Lamb, Achane for Wilson, Chuba, Zach Moss, Debo. I'm 5-1. I have Nico, Lamb, Reed, Monty, and Bucky. Honestly, I don't think I take either. Okay, so here's the thing. Trading for Chuba Hubbard right now is fine if you believe that Jonathan Brooks never actually does anything for the future. And that's always a possibility. It could exist where Chuba Hubbard just reigns supreme for the remainder of the year. But as for the second trade, Lamb and Achane for Wilson, that's not even something that I'm remotely interested in. That second trade is a disaster. I think in both circumstances, I keep what you have. Considering your current record, I'd rather just keep the Lamb Achane for the future. I don't care that you lose this week. I just want the better team for the future, and I think holding is what actually accomplishes that for you in this circumstance. Thank you, Jake. Alrighty, so what time is it? All right, so usually I like to have these streams either between like an hour to an hour and a half. Last couple days we've kind of pushed that hour and a half mark and some. So I'm going to answer a couple more questions, then I'm going to head out. Again, I got to get prepared for tomorrow's Hidden Gems and all the picks we're going to make via Underdog for this upcoming weekend. So I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. Again, besides the live streams, the Hidden Gems, the quarterback and tight end rankings video from earlier this week, of course, wide receiver, running back rankings. We'll be back tomorrow night with another live stream, Saturday afternoon, 1 to 3 p.m. PST, and then Sunday morning, 6 a.m. PST with live stream. If you guys want additional content, you can always find it via Underdog. Again, signing up using code Andrew, making that first time deposit minimum of $10 gets you my rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season. Additionally, you can also check out Patreon if you have already signed up via Underdog with my code or somebody else's code in the past, and you can find all of the overall rankings via Patreon every Thursday and Sunday, and of course, ask me unlimited questions there in the Patreon overall messenger or via Discord once we connect. Thank you. All right, last couple questions of the night. Tsunami sends in a question. It says, who wins, Evans and Deontay or Lamb in a full PPR? Depends on context. I would say, like, if you don't need the depth of Deontay, I'll just take Lamb and I'll run with it. Thank you. Frosty says, I'm signing in on my second account on my phone to aid the spam is wild move. LOL. What is he saying? Chat, is Lamar Jackson Bijan, Fareek, Barkley giving up too much? Or should I accept? Who's your other quarterback, bro? You got to give context. You have JD5? I'll take the deal. Give me Reek and Barkley rest of the season. It's not even close. Fabian sends in a question. Says, trade Kamara and Brian Thomas Jr. for Barkley. If you can survive giving away Brian Thomas Jr. at the current moment in time, I'd say okay with that. But that, again, not a lot of teams are going to be able to give away a 15-point wide receiver and a 15 to 18-point running back and only get back a 20-point player and survive. Again, oftentimes it hurts. You know what I mean? All right, guys. That's what I'm going to call it. I do appreciate y'all. That's where it's going to be closing out. I'm going to go ahead and cue the music in regards to the greatest guitar solo of all time. Have a great rest of your night. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.